We're joined now by one of our guests. He played 552 games during an 18-year career. During that time, he played for teams like Wigan, Birmingham and Barnsley. So I'm pleased to say that we're joined by Nicky Eaden. How are you tonight, Nicky?
I'm fine, thank you.
Fantastic. Yeah, not too bad, thank you. Thanks very much for giving your time up tonight.
No problems.
One of the questions I wanted to start with is I've had a quick look at your record since you retired. Notice you've been an assistant manager a few times, but never made that step into full management. Is that something that you've got ambitions to do?
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes it's just circumstance that you find yourself in. At the start of it, I was still playing at non-league level with Kettering, so that's when I was assistant, and ended up moving to Peterborough with Mark Cooper. I'm in no big rush to get into it. I think there's a lot of lads that have had decent careers, and they're desperate to get into management. And I think some of them do it too quickly. They jump in. I think it's a toss of a coin as to whether they succeed or not. The sort of path that I'm following is trying to get as much experience as I can, watch and learn off other people. The biggest learning thing was the managers that I played for. Because I always used to look at what they did and try to work out why they did it. And then obviously later in the career, you'd ask them, for advice and pick up tips and along the way. But if I do make that step into management at any stage, I want to be as prepared as I can be.
Yeah. So who was the best manager that you played under then?
It's difficult to choose one because they're all got sort of different strengths and different ways of playing. I suppose, my first manager made a massive impression on me, which was Danny Wilson at Barnsley. We achieved, promotion to Premiership under Danny. I learned a lot from Danny. So the first couple of years with him, I was playing alongside him because he was player manager. So I learned a hell of a lot of him, playing wise and learning the game really.
Yeah.
And then I suppose you can look at Paul Jewell and Dave Bassett. Harry Bassett really organised, knew how to win games, knew how to set his teams up. And Paul Jewell again, achieved promotion with him at Wigan. He wouldn't give you a minute's rest. He was driving you on non-stop, and that's where he got his success from.
Right. Okay. One thing that I was going to ask you, you've touched on it there, getting promotion with Barnsley. How big a step did you find it between what was Division 1 and moving up to the Premier League?
It was a big jump, especially when you got, when you played against the bottom half side, you were always in with a chance, but even they could turn you over if they were on form that day. You could get a real good hiding, but the top boys, it was really difficult to compete with them. We didn't, obviously, a club the size of Barnsley couldn't afford to invest that heavily in too many players. So at times it was a struggle, but when we weren't too far away from, managing to stay up. Yeah.
So bringing it forward to the present day, obviously you're Leicester City at the minute, as the under-21s coach. We had David Clark on last week, who's an FA coach, because we were talking about grassroots football following England under-21s failure. How important do you see the under-21 setup at club and sort of international level?
Well, I know at club level, one of the reasons it's been brought in, this development squad, is for the late developers. There's sometimes lads slipping through the net at 18 because physically they're not good enough, or that they are just late developers. So it gives them another chance, and it gives them games, because a lot of times lads get lost in the system. If they're at big clubs, they just don't get the games because there's too many players there. They can't force their way into the reserve side. So it does give the late developers, or they all develop at different ages. But it gives them that extra chance to make the grade, so that we're not losing out. on players who will then maybe have to drop down the leagues, and it takes them 3, 4, 5 years to work their way back up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I see it as, you know, quite a big thing. You know, obviously England under 21s haven't performed, and you know the man for there is Stuart Pearce, because you look at the performances, you look at the players. I think the biggest thing that's, you know, it's helped the game immensely, but it's also ruined it for some lads, is the money. You know, the game's flooded with money at the minute, but the majority of it is going to the players, you know, and players and agents, and they get too much too young. You know, there's lads in on the 21 side who could probably retire in a year or two, and they haven't even had a career yet, you know. So I think it takes that edge off them, it takes hunger away from them, you know, to go out and really prove themselves, and really have to work at the career.
Yeah, we mentioned it last week that the under-21s tournament probably isn't seen as important, because you can get the same money for going and sitting on a beach as going and representing your country, and that might be something to do with why there wasn't the same level of effort in you. I mean, you've mentioned it there. What I want to do is open it up to the two Chris's. I know they've got a few questions lined up for you, Nicky, so over to you guys.
I was just going to say, Nicky, didn't you make the bench in one of those development games this year?
Yeah.
Were you telling them you were just a late bloomer? And that's what the
Yeah, that was stretching the development age a bit far. You know, I was you know, just past 40.
I'm going to make it, lads.
yeah. I was hoping for a comeback, you know.
Leicester competing in the Premier Under 21s Cup, because a couple of Premiership Championship clubs were. Did you?
You what, sorry?
Were Leicester competing in the Premier Under 21 Cup?
We were in Category 2, so we weren't with. I think, you know, hopefully, I think we've just made Category 1, which is nothing to do with results. It's about our academy. You know, how it stacks up with the Triple P, all the criteria we've got to meet. But so we were in mainly Championship clubs. You know, Huddersfield, Barnsley, Sheffield United, Sheffield Wednesday, Leeds, Wigan were in there. We managed to win that. You know, but hopefully next year we'll be in Cat 1, which will be against all the big boys.
Leicester have got a little bit of money. Do these kind of the categories and the fact that you need to update your academies to make the top category, does that give clubs an incentive to invest, do you think?
I'm not sure, to be honest. You know, it depends which way you want to go. You know, there's a lot of clubs. Obviously, a club like Leicester, they haven't got the ability to go out and spend on players. You know, sort of ready-made players. I suppose if you're looking at a club, you know, one springs to mind is the likes of Barnsley. Yeah. You know, haven't got that level of investment. You know, they might need to use their academy more. You know, at the moment, I think, you know, the big clubs, you know, they've got they invest millions in their academies, and you know, Villa, obviously, they're seeing, you know, the products coming through, you know, but you've got to have a manager that's willing to play the young lads and take a chance on them. You know, I mean, it could have backfired badly for Villa. You know, they could quite easily be in the Championship by now, if it hadn't been for, you know, a couple of players like Benteke getting the goals. But luckily now they've stuck with the kids, they'll be better for it. But there's a lot of clubs won't even bother going down that route, and sometimes you wonder why they've got an academy.
Yeah.
You say with Man City, they used to be the team that brought through the youth team, but now I can't remember the last time they brought through a youth team player.
No, I mean, we've just been to Hong Kong with it was sort of like a 7-side tournament. You know, Man City were there, Sunderland, Newcastle. You know, and when you join their coach, you know, and they're going out and spending, you know, anything from, you know, 250 grand to £1 million on kids. You know, at 14, 15, and you think, gee, you know, there's no way you can tell if anybody's going to be a player at that age, because the way they develop and the game catches them up. And then you look at how many, like a Man City, are they really going to play a kid? When they got the ability to go out and spend 30-40 million on players. I'm not sure whether all this new financial fair play will have an effect where clubs will have to start, because they'll not be able to go out and pay the wages and sign the players. They might have to start playing some of the youngsters.
A friend of mine's a Barnsley fan. He texted me when I mentioned that you were coming on. Actually, he texted me to say that you were his childhood hero and he had your name signed on his shirt. He was quite excited. I know he was quite excited for me. He's constantly, he goes on about Barnsley. It's just like watching Brazil. How important was the style to Barnsley? I mean, was it coached into you, or was it? You had to necessarily go out and do this. It wasn't just natural.
No, that's the thing with people. You see it in the coaching now that coaches will say, "Yeah, I want my teams to play." And so what I'll always ask them is, "Well, how do you get them to play?" We give them the freedom. Well, what do you work on? And they don't really do a lot. They just keep saying to lads, "Pass it, pass it, pass it." Now, what we did at Barnsley, we had a coach called Eric Winstanley. That I was fortunate to have him as my youth team coach. I had him for about 10 years, and he moved up to first team level. And he drilled it into us. And it was hard work to play. People think it's easy to play a passing game. It's probably even harder than playing like a long ball game, because you have to work so hard to create angles, make runs, make unselfish runs, supporting runs and everything. But he drilled it into us. I mean, we did have some technically good players and some very underrated players as well. But we used to work at that style of play, week in, week out. And when I've been to other clubs and I've watched other clubs train, they didn't put anywhere near the amount of work in that we did at Barnsley. That was it. Probably, I mean, one of the biggest things was the system that we played. We played with 3 centre halves. People said we played with 5 at the back, but at times we were so fluid. But it was because we'd worked at things and everybody knew the jobs. And I'm sure that I could have gone and played in any other position in that team and known what I was supposed to do. I probably wouldn't be able to do it playing up front, but I would have known the runs to make. I would have known, the passes to play because we worked at it.
Yeah, I mean, was there any temptation in the club to change that when you reach the top level? Obviously, it becomes a lot harder, or was it, this is how we're going to play? We're not going to sacrifice what we do.
Yeah, well, funnily enough, I spoke to Eric a couple of months ago, and we were speaking about this. That we went into the Premier League and we tried to take teams on. Because I think he said if they felt at the time that we wouldn't be able to pack the defence and sit back and soak up pressure. We didn't have the players to do it. But what we were good at was keeping the ball and creating opportunities for ourselves. Listen, we didn't get relegated because as a collective we weren't good enough as individuals or as a team. But on our day we could compete with a lot of teams up there. But
United, didn't you? Was it in the cup?
Yeah, I was FA Cup. Yeah, I mean, they played probably a few weeks after they thumped us 7-0 at Old Trafford. But that sort of game, I think Man United had 8 chances and they scored 7 of them. I think they played Crystal Palace the week after, had something like 23 chances and beat Palace 1-0. So it was one of them days. But no, I think we did try and play our own game. At times we were a bit open, but we didn't. We couldn't play any other way. As I said, we couldn't sit back and soak up pressure and pack the defence. So I think they just thought we might as well try and take teams on.
I wasn't going to bring it up, but then you talked about thumping. You did play in the only thumping I remember West Ham giving anyone as a fan. Could you? I do. That's sick. I have to bring it up because my friend will be listening, and I want to remind him that that's happened as well. Could you see how good the likes of Rio Ferdinand and Frank Lampard especially were at that young age when you're playing against them?
Yeah, you could when you're on the pitch with them, because you're always trying to work out how you can get the upper hand on you. Whether you're playing against. Obviously, I wasn't directly up against them, but you could just see, you were never going to get past Rio Ferdinand at the back. He got pace, he could read the game. Frank Lampard was such, a box-to-box midfielder. He's a bit of a dying breed now, because they all seem to be sitting midfielders or playing the old guy and the striker. But he's a total complete midfielder for me.
He also mentioned Dave Watson. Now, Dave has been very successful since he's got into the young goalkeepers coaching. Do you ever speak to him about the coaching progress he's made?
Yeah, now and again. Last time I spoke to him, spoke a couple of months ago, but I went down because he was at Birmingham with Chris Hilton. Obviously, Watto finished early. I think he'd probably about 25, 26 when he had to finish through injury. But you could always sort of see, again, Watto, he was probably lucky that he worked with Eric Steele at Barnsley, who used to come in a couple of days a week, so he's probably, I know for a fact he's big mates with Steely, and, Steely probably started him on the coaching path. One thing with Watto, there's nobody who'll work harder than him at whatever he's doing. So he deserves, what he's achieved so far. And I've seen him at first hand. He came into Forest at the back end of my career as goalie coach, and I've seen him work at Birmingham, and he's a different class, Watto.
Is it things you've been noticed since you've done your coaching courses? Things you've noticed that are evidently different from the way you were taught as a player, or do you think coaching has hasn't evolved as much as people think?
Definitely. I think it's got worse. How many people is this going to go out to? Because on these coaching courses, I don't know whether it's because I'm from Barnsley up north, and you can spot a bullshitter a mile away. But the game's littered with them, and they're in, at a very high level. And I think, like I mentioned before, to get Barnsley playing like we did, real good football, took a lot of hard work on the training ground. Now you go on these courses and it seems to be everything about how your relationship with the chairman and the chief exec and the fans. And I raised the question, well, hang on a minute, when are we going to work on anything on the training pitch? And it was like, well, we all know how to do that. And I'm like, go on then, tell me. And I think I must have been spoilt with the managers and coaches that I've worked with, because I don't see that level of football intelligence with a lot of the coaches. A lot of it is coaching by numbers out of a book and what you can do on a laptop. But you see them get out on the training pitch and actually getting information to the players, and a lot of it's showing them. I ain't saying that you have to be being an ex-pro to be a coach, but it don't half help if you can actually show the lads exactly what you want, by getting the ball at your feet and showing them. And there's so many coaches can't do that. But as I say, you see all the new stuff coming in. Everybody's trying to reinvent the wheel. You keep going back to, things that people were doing 20, 25 years ago, and people trying to claim it as new idea and philosophy. That's the new buzzword, philosophy. You've got to have a philosophy. And what you find is, a lot of these coaches pick a philosophy, a passing game, or however they want to play, and everybody else seems to want to play like Barcelona at the minute, and then I said, well, what if that philosophy is not working? And they said, well, we stick to it because it's our philosophy. and they seem to think that it's okay to lose a game as long as you stick to your philosophy. But there's a lack of adaptability with a lot of the coaches, which is what I find. The ability to show your players how to mix the game up, to play different styles, different ways at different stages of different games. Because the games, no two games are exactly the same.
I just want to pick something up, Nicky. Chris mentioned about his memories from the West Ham game. There's one that jumps out at me, and it's the Liverpool-Barnsley game at Oakwell. What do you remember about that game?
Oh, well, I think it ended up, was it 4-2? And I think we ended up with 8 men off. Yeah, we had 3 sent off, yeah. That's one of the games that sticks out for me, it wasn't, we didn't have that many victories in the Prem, but it wasn't, that's probably the game that stuck out most of all for me, because of that much happened.
Yeah.
I think we lost Chris Morgan early on for an alleged elbow on Michael Owen. Then I think we lost Daz Barnard, clipped by Bowen's heels when he was going through. So that was 2. We were 2 down. We had to change the system. I'm trying to think. We ended up playing 3 at the back, and I was a central one. Sort of 3 in midfield, 2 up front, and a keeper, and then late on. I think I can just remember. I think they scored to make it 3-2. I think, or 3-2 or 4-2, and then I think Darren Sheridan had a running battle with Paul Ince all game. So Paul Ince has gone to give Shez some stick. Jamie Red's trying to split it up. So Shez had swung a punch at Paul Ince and smack caught Jamie Red and that flush on the jaw. So I think Shez was off. So that was down to 7, I don't think. And then the last thing I remember is a lad coming on trying to attack the ref. And it was my mate from school. So he was running past me and I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm going to effing kill him." So yeah, pretty eventful that game, the Liverpool one.
As I say, it is one that sticks out in my memory because you'd beaten us at Anfield earlier in the year.
Yeah.
It was, 1-0. It wasn't. Game doesn't really stick out, but that one is one of them. There's one game I think a season you'll remember, and that was certainly it for me.
Go on.
What I was going to ask is, obviously, looking back on your career, do you have any regrets about one of the clubs that you signed for, or one of the decisions you made?
Obviously, hindsight's brilliant. I think I left Barnsley at the right time for myself. Came to Birmingham. Started off great, and then Brucey took over and wanted his own players, and I wasn't one of them. So, the last sort of few months at Birmingham weren't great. Again, Wigan, I couldn't have picked a better club at a better time. We had 2 promotions in 3 seasons at Wigan. With hindsight, I ended up I went to Forest after that, and I saw that as a real good move. So I thought they just dropped out of the Championship, and I felt like to go to a club like Forest and help them, get back up into the Championship. But as soon as I got there, it was kind of it was a club in a bit of turmoil, on and off the pitch, and I say it's easy with hindsight. At the time, I thought I was making the right decision, but with hindsight, you might have stayed at Wigan for another year. But Paul Jewell had already told me the season before that if we got up, I wouldn't be playing. He'd go out and sign players. And I'd be one that he'd be looking to replace. Obviously, if we'd have stayed in the Champ, he said, "No problem, you'll still play." So I didn't really want to be sat. I'm never one of those players that are happy. There's plenty about now that would have stayed at Wigan because they were a Premier League club.
Yeah.
And sat on the bench, or and claimed to be a Premier League player. And for me, you're only a Premier League player if you're playing regularly.
Yeah.
So, I left to go to Forest, and it did work out. But massive regret. It's just, it's one of them things.
How was the? Did you find the League Cup final?
Oh, with Birmingham.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
yeah,
I mean that was unbelievable. I mean, we beat 2 or 3 Prem teams on the way. We had a real good team spirit at Birmingham in that season. And to get there as a championship club when, I mean, I know there's a few clubs managed it since, but back then there weren't too many champ clubs getting to the League Cup final. We gave a real good account of ourselves. Ended up drawing 1 apiece. I mean, we had a Stonewall penalty turned down as well. And then to lose sort of 6-5 on pens. I suppose if there's a decent way to lose it, it's not too bad because of this. You turn around and say, well, we haven't come and got battered. And we could and should have really won the game.
Were you still on for the penalties?
Yeah.
What number were you down the list?
I was next up. We had Andy Johnson missed the decisive one. We sort of thought, because he was a striker.
He didn't miss many penalties in his career, did he?
I don't think he did, no, but he was only young at the time.
Yeah.
So you felt for him.
Actually, I've just got a text through now. He said, do you still follow Barnsley? And my mate is now... He's texted me about 50 times, actually, in the past 10 minutes. But I'm still up there. My brother-in-law's a massive Barnsley fan. He covers a lot of the games because he's a cameraman as well. Oh, really?
I always look for Barnsley's result. And you tend to keep tabs on the clubs you've played for. See how they're going on, but especially Barnsley.
Yeah, so out of all of your promotions, Barnsley is the most special because you're local.
Yeah, it'd have to be. Obviously, the Birmingham one was good. But obviously, the latter end of that season, I wasn't playing regularly, so you didn't feel like you were part of it. And the Wigan one, again, Wigan, very similar club, to Barnsley. The real honest club.
Did it feel like you were at the beginning or something when you got to Wigan?
Yeah, you felt you were on the up at Wigan. I mean, they had quite a lot of investment, obviously from Dave Whelan, but you still had to go out and earn the promotion. But going back to Barnsley, that was totally unexpected. We got a lot of lads in the squad that would come through together. In a space of 2 or 3 years. Probably 5 or 6 of us in the squad. And as I said, all my family, Barnsley fans. So, it just really special. Big pitch invasion at the end, and you knew everywhere you turned, you were seeing familiar faces that you knew. From growing up around the area. And it did seem to give the whole town such a lift at the time.
Just one last question from me, Nicky, before I ask the other guys if they've got any further questions. Is we've had it sent in from Ollie on our forum, and he's asked what was the best ground that you played at.
Best ground. It's difficult. Obviously, the Millennium was great. It was full. I think there's 70,000 there. And it's kind of closed in quite a bit. It's such a noise. I mean, the old Wembley as well. We played there with Barnsley in the playoff final against Ipswich.
Yeah.
They took the edge off it. That was the last game I played for Barnsley, and we got beat. Out of the league grounds, I would say Anfield. People talk about the atmosphere at Anfield and at different grounds, and for me, Anfield was a better atmosphere than like Old Trafford. I don't know, there's something about it. It felt like still partly sort of like old school, if you like. You know, a lot of the newer grounds are a bit sterile. Anfield was, you know, I don't know, something about the place.
Yeah, I know. I went to watch the Swansea game there this year in the League Cup, and even when we were getting beat 3-1, the atmosphere was still there. And it's quite close into the pitch as well, isn't it? So does it feel like the fans are on top of you?
Yeah. You know, again, you get these where, you know, the seats are, you know, 15, 20 yards from the pitch when, you know, you grew up sort of playing, and when you were younger, most of the grounds were, you know, the fans were right on top of you. So I do, as I say, it's got a bit of old school feel to it, but I did do when we played there.
Speak on the back of that, is there any most intimidating kind of crowd or ground you've played at?
You have to say Millwall.
Oh, yeah, I'm surprised.
Yeah, I think, you know, I've played a couple of games. I think I got my nose broken down there. It was the first season when, if the physio came on. Yeah, during the game. Yeah.
Not one of them just meeting you after.
No, it wasn't one. No, it wasn't one of the fans. No. But it was the first season when, if the physio came on, you had to leave the field on a stretcher. You know, so I got all the blood, you know, all on a bit days. But you know, I stood up to walk off. More than anything, up my nose. But they made me get on the stretcher, so I was getting booed and everything. You know, so that was it for the full game. You're getting pelters off the fans, and then two coppers come at the final whistle, striding over to me. And I'm looking behind me, thinking, what's happening behind? I thought, you know, it was to give me a police escort off the pitch. You know, and then, you know, you're getting all sorts from the crowd, and you know, we went back there with Birmingham when we beat them in the playoffs, and we had to stay in the ground for a couple of hours after, and they were rioting outside, but just the
they're a lovely club.
It's not funny, but you have to laugh at the time when, you know, there's a guy banging on the back of the dugout, shouting all sorts at you, and what are you going to do, and all this, and then his son, who was about 12, starts joining in as well. You know, two skinheads.
I always remember watching Millwall, because I live in North Wales, so Wrexham are my local club. Wrexham were playing Millwall, and after about 10 minutes Wrexham scored, and they invaded the pitch. 10 minutes into a game, I was only about 8 or 9 at the time. It was the scariest thing I've ever seen. You know, 50 skinheads running at you, and you think, I want to get out of here.
Yeah, I'm only in my mid-20s, but even we've had some run-ins at West Ham with them in the few games we've had with them recently. But then we would do, because we don't like each other very much.
Yeah.
He's also texted, he read one of your sub-goalkeepers at Barnsley autobiographies, and there used to be quite a few hijinks. He said women waiting in changing rooms after games, stuff like that. One of your old Barnsley sub-goalkeepers saying there were hijinks going on at the club. I mean, does that thing still go on in modern football? Is that kind of the kind of lad culture of that kind of died down a bit?
Well, I never knew anything about women waiting in the changing room.
There's going to be rumours.
Yeah, it definitely has changed. I mean, a lot of it, you know, lads can't do anything now. You know, they can't get away with anything. You know, there's also Facebook, Twitter, and anything you say or do can be flashed around to thousands of people within 30 seconds. You know, so it has, you know, and obviously just the media. You know, the lads are under the media spotlight far more than we were. You know, you could not do what you wanted back then, but you know, you could get away with a lot more back then. And I think that, I don't know, the players have changed as well. You know, the lads back then, you know, you were still earning sort of decent money, but I know from at Barnsley, you'd be earning, you know, more than the average bloke, but you've got a much shorter career. So you wouldn't be able to retire at the end of your career.
Still one of the people.
Yeah, you know, as I say, you'd have a few extra quid in your pocket, but you wouldn't be, you know, living in a massive house, you know, with 3 cars or whatever. You know, I was playing for Barnsley, still living in a terraced house, you know, and walking your dogs and around the local park and everything, and then going training, and even in the Prem, you were sort of one of the lads, if you like. And I don't think the better dressing rooms I was in, you always had a real good camaraderie. The people going about team spirit and everything. Lads back then tended to, foster their own team spirit, and it might have involved going down to the pub for the afternoon. But you got to know each other. You got to rely on each other. But I think a lot of the players now, they tend to look after themselves. That's all they're bothered about. They seem to think that if they have a group huddle before the kick-off, that's team spirit. But it's changed massively. The players and the game.
So, Chris, Lapo, not Wilkerson. I get confused with you two. Have you got any final questions for Nicky, mate?
Have you ever been involved in any of the Masters football?
The Masters, yeah, we. I'm trying to. They haven't done it for the last couple of years. They haven't done it for last year.
I used to love watching it.
Yeah, I've a couple of times for Barnsley. I think it's obviously regional, so I think we've won.
The Yorkshire.
I've played twice. We've won the Yorkshire one twice. I missed the final the first year. I couldn't get there, and then we got beat on pens in the final down in Birmingham. But yeah, they're great. I used to love them. They were great get-togethers, and
they were really fun to watch as well.
Yeah. It's always good to see how much we've put the most weight on since last year. Who's the fattest player? They all start to get a little bit serious. That it was supposed to be over 35s, and they were getting lads who were getting the youngest team that they could, and a lot of the lads were still playing. So getting quite a bit more competitive. But I said they've not done it. They definitely didn't do it last year, and I don't think they're doing it this year either.
I think it's been about 3 years since it's been on.
Maybe a team just over 40s and things like that. It'd make more sense, wouldn't it? As you say, because at 35 now, with the way sports nutrition is, people are still playing into their 30s. So United could put gigs out in that case. Or Skulls.
Yeah, you'd have gigs and Skulls, wouldn't you? Yeah. Might not be, you'll get a chasing against them lads. I think they should make it all the 40s now. Maybe I'm biased because I've just gone over 40 myself. I'll be one of the younger ones.
You're still in the development squad, Nicky. You don't need to apply for the Masters.
Fully registered.
It's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you tonight, Nicky. Thanks very much for giving up your time. I'm sure the other guys will agree with me that it's been really insightful. And hopefully you'll come back on again.
Yeah, I always have enjoyed it.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
No, thanks very much for giving you time tonight, Nicky, anyway.
Yeah, no problem.